Hi, I'm Simon Hill and you're watching Purebred Reds Adelaide United Fan TV.
Are you after the latest and greatest football kits, boots, goalkeeper gear, teamwear, accessories or equipment? Look no further than South Australia's very own soccer specialty store, Soccer Locker. An Australian owned and operated business, the store is located at Shop 5 of 181 to 183 Grange Road, Findon. Founded in 2012, Soccer Locker was introduced into the market to fulfill all the soccer-related needs of Australians, providing a huge range of quality clothing and equipment ranging from soccer balls, team kits, goalkeeper gear, accessories and much more. As well as stocking all current football merch from your favourite overseas teams, recently arrived stock also includes stunning retro kits from some of our favourite past eras as fans of the world game. So get shopping now at our Findon store, open from Monday to Friday and open Saturdays from 9 AM to 3 PM. Or visit us online and take advantage of free shipping from across Australia at soccerlocker.com.au.
The opening phase of the game. Adelaide trying to establish themselves, get a foothold in the contest, might have a chance here. Vinny Leah! Oh! My word, what a goal! Goodness me, that was an absolute rocket!
This is their first entry into the penalty area of any meaning. And Absalomson receives the ball, good enough to kill the ball and cushion it for Vince Leah. And there's no cushion in that. That is 100% pure hammer to the back of the net at the Torrens River end of the ground. It's a beauty from Vince Leah.
Again, that determination by the Reds. And it's Absalomson on the left. Good cutback by Absalomson! Oh, what a hit again! Vinny Leah! Yep, he's got two.
Well, this is an Adelaide special. Adelaide marks season 13 of the A-League. And talking about special, service from the Dane, second to none. Finish from Vince Leah. Leans back, swipes through the ball, outside of the foot, if you don't mind. Against the team that launched your A-League career. Cop that.
Is it going to sit up for his left foot? Goodwin on a tight angle, and then hooks it back. Vinny Leah arriving! 2-0!
Well, Sermon gets a touch, but there's far too much power. Closer to Goodwin there. Cuts it back, and Leah just puts his boot right through that account.
G'day guys and welcome to the Purebred Reds Adelaide United Fan TV. I'm your host Ellis Gelios, coming to you today with a huge match day preview of the original rivalry tonight between Melbourne Victory and Adelaide United, joined by a player who played for both clubs. He's amassed some 240 A-League appearances in his time, played 40 games for Adelaide United between 2017 and 2020. It's my pleasure to welcome Vince Leah to the show. Vince, how you doing?
I'm doing well, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. You're obviously quite busy these days playing for Altona Magic in the NPL Victoria after finishing up with Perth Glory at the end of last season in the A-League. Just tell us how you're getting on at the moment back home in Victoria.
Yeah, not bad, actually. It's good. Actually, quite nice to be home. Obviously, been away for so long, I've missed a lot of things, family functions and friends' birthdays and stuff like that. So it's quite nice to be home. When I arrived home, we were in a bit of a lockdown, so it took some getting used to, and getting used to Melbourne's traffic again is not being that enjoyable. But yeah, playing now in the NPL, which I'm enjoying. I'm still getting my football fixed, so it's going quite well and pretty busy at the moment, to be honest.
We've got an action-packed preview and biographical interview to get through, but I just want to ask before that, 2007, the year that you last left your home, did you miss the coffee much?
Initially, yeah, I did. I'm a big coffee drinker now and was back then, but Wellington surprisingly had a really good coffee scene. So I got my fix over there, so it was quite nice to be able to get my fix.
Good stuff, Vince. We're going to get straight into things. So the game is a 6:40 p.m. kickoff tonight. And if you haven't travelled to Melbourne, guys, be sure to catch it on Fox Sports and KO Sports as per usual. In squad news for us, very, very interestingly, and contrary to what the club has published, I can tell you that there'll be no Tommy Urich, Yaya Dukali, or Jared Smith, which Adelaide United named all three of those players in the provisional squad to travel. They've all been spotted in Adelaide yesterday afternoon, so safe to say they won't be playing. Noah Smith is among them too. Now, Vince, we've got to start with your old club and your first club in the A-League. You are a foundation Melbourne Victory player. They've been absolutely awful this season. Most recently, of course, losing 6-0 to crosstown rival Melbourne City. In my opinion, this is the worst victory I've seen on and off the pitch. We've had board members stepping down. We've even had the chairman recently deleting his Instagram account due to too many fans finding it and launching into tirades of abuse. So considering all that, we've got to say this really isn't a Melbourne Victory that you know. You had a fantastic experience playing with them in the early A-League years, and we're going to touch more on that in the later part of the interview when we talk about, obviously, that fantastic championship season that you had there at the Victory. But I've got to ask you, how's it all just completely crumbled for them? Obviously, we know it's nothing new because last season they were pretty poor too. They finished one place above the Mariners, who won the Wooden Spoon. This season, though, it's all just fallen apart to a level that we've never seen before in the A-League. Vince, what's gone wrong?
Yeah, look, I don't know. I guess that's something that the club and the players and the staff and everyone involved in the club have to figure out fast. But you're right in saying that it's not just, you know, this season's problem. It's been an issue for years. Even the year that they won the grand final, they weren't very good. They finished fourth and were lucky and shouldn't have won that grand final. So that probably, and I remember I actually read something about Archie Thompson wrote something this week about that maybe papered over the cracks a little bit. So it's been an issue for a few years. I think the squad depth hasn't been great. I actually think historically Victory have spent a lot of money on their first 11, 15 players, and then beyond that, it's not very strong. So this year you look at their team, and I just don't think it's a team that Melbourne Victory want or deserve, or it's a huge club, you know, a huge city in Australia, and the squad is not good enough really when you break it down. And then, you know, the appointment of Grant Brebner, I think, was a cheap option for them. You know, obviously COVID and budgets slashed and all that. They've obviously gone out and bought some foreign players, but then, you know, just signed Rebs, who was there at the club coaching the youth team, who at the time said he wasn't ready and didn't want the job, you know, and then 3 weeks later he's, you know, come out in a press conference saying he's ready and he's looking forward to it. So there's something going on behind the scenes that obviously, you know, translates to their match day performances and results. You know, the game, I think they've won one game, and that game they did win was 2 goals in the last 10 minutes against Perth. So yeah, not great, not great watching either. They're not a team that's playing the brand of football that Victory usually play. Their only real danger seems to be Gestede up front. You know, if McManaman can cross the ball to him and he'll score, that seems their only avenue to goal. So it's a bit one-dimensional at the moment, but I guess good for Adelaide tonight if that's the way that they're going to play, and you can stop those two. I think you're halfway there.
I think absolutely everyone in the A-League world is going to agree with you on the comments you've made there, reflecting Melbourne Victory right now. I want to talk about one of their players, Marco Rojas. He's gone down in the last week with a leg break. It looks like he's going to miss the majority of the season. Obviously an amazingly talented player who can flip a game on its head when he's at his best. Now, you played with him at Wellington Phoenix. You saw him come through as a young player back in 2009. Obviously, you've got some recollections from having played with him, and you probably saw ahead of most people that he was going to be a star. So tell us about that, and also how big of a loss he's going to be for the Melbourne Victory.
Yeah, Marco was an amazing talent, to be honest. He came to training. The Yellow Fever found him. They ran a competition and he won, and they found him. And he came to training and he was unbelievable. He was just dribbling everyone, and we were like pretty in awe of him. We were like, this young kid's he's going to be, you know, a star one day. And it didn't take him long before he was on the pitch doing what he was doing at training. And I think the year that he played, I think the back half of the year, he played almost every game, and nearly every goal we scored came from him. You know, so it wasn't long before we moved to Melbourne, and then on, you know, Johnny Warren medalist, and moved to Europe. You know, obviously a different ball game over there. Marco's pretty small, you know, and doesn't really like the physical side of the game. He's quite a small guy and a tricky player. So found it tough, I guess, in Europe, but, you know, come back and he, you know, lit the league up again. And, you know, he's one that Victory need on the pitch, playing well if they, you know, if they want to climb the table. And unfortunately, he's, you know, I read, yesterday that he's got a crack in his leg, and he's had a horrible run with a hammy and a face injury, and now he's broken a leg. So yeah, not good, because he's a great kid, really, you know, really down to earth and good player. But yeah, it looks like he's going to be missing for a while.
No doubt about it. So Grant Bremner's obviously under huge pressure right now, so much so that he's hired ex-Wanderers manager Jean-Paul Demarini to come in as an assistant. He's come in immediately. How much of an influence can a strong personality like his have in the dugout, particularly 1 week into them being there? Can it change much positively for Melbourne Victory? From your experiences as a player, an assistant coming in, can it have an immediate effect, Vince?
Look, generally, if it's the head coach gone and a new one coming in, you get a reaction. You know, players are kind of been put on notice. Things are a bit fresher, and you know, usually the coach comes in and says, just go out and enjoy yourselves. There's no pressure, blah, 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 the first week. So you get a strong performance on the back of that. Whether that will happen tonight, because, you know, he's an assistant coming in to help Brebs, whether much changes, I don't really think it's going to do much. Long term, it may help, you know, it may help the coaching staff, help improve the group. You know, JP's been there before. He's worked with Muskie, who had success, so he knows, I guess, how to get the best out of some of those players who were there. I don't really see it changing much tonight, to be honest, but it may do in the long run.
Now, let's look at things from the Adelaide perspective. 4 wins in a row on the cards tonight if we can beat Melbourne Victory. These players of ours shouldn't need any further incentive at the moment. Are we suddenly looking like a bit of a dark horse for you, Vince?
Look, to be honest, not really. I think the game against, I think it was, I don't know who it was, 3 penalties and
Mariners, yeah.
Mariners, yeah, and won. The performances haven't been really that good. Mm-hmm. The results have, and I guess that's a sign of a good team. You know, if you're not playing well and you're managing to pick up wins, you know, that's where teams win championships. You know, because they're going to have periods like that. So I feel like if Adelaide can play to their potential, which they can play much better than they have been, then, you know, they can seriously challenge. But I don't think many people should get too carried away with the results, because the performances haven't been amazing. But, you know, stuff to build on, and wins breeds confidence. So the players probably tonight will be super confident. Have to be a little bit wary of Victory after getting beat 6-0. You know, it's a big game. It's an original rivalry. Regardless of where people sit on the table, it's a huge night. So that the boys will be up for it, no doubt. I think they'll win tonight, you know, which will help, again, the confidence and climb the table if they want to stay, you know, in contention, you know. But I think there's a lot of improvement still in this team, but they're going well. They're still, obviously, you mentioned all the injuries they have, so, you know, still people to bring back into the lineup. Tommy back up front makes a huge difference when he's back. Yaya on the wing, and then the 2 young boys, you know, at the back. I think Noel Smith's been really good when he's played. He's been a bit of a surprise for me, actually. I know he's a good player, but the way he's fitted in and he's looked really comfortable there. I think he's a good option long term as a left back.
I'd have to say I agree wholeheartedly with your views that the nature of our performances haven't always been fantastic. Midfield. Now, Carl Viet's been chopping and changing it for some weeks now. This is a midfield you commandeered not very long ago. How should it best function? You've obviously seen plenty of young Luis Dorrigo from your time at the club. There's rumours the Spaniard Juan is about to join, who you played against and played with actually recently. And obviously you know about Stefan Mork too. How should this midfield work best, do you think, formation-wise and personnel-wise too?
Well, firstly, if Juan is signing, I think it'll completely change the dynamic of the team. I think that's exactly what the club need. Someone like him. He's a very, very good player. You know, playing against him, you don't really see the detail that he has and what he does for the group. But being with him in Perth for 6 months, he's so important to the way that Perth played. You know, he does all the work that no one else wants to do. He's tidy on the ball, and I think that's what's been missing really in the midfield. You know, you got Joey Coletti and Louis, who are good on the ball, tidy, and rat around a little bit, but they miss that strong presence. You know, really at the base of the midfield, which one day will bring. So, the sooner he can, if he does sign, and the sooner he gets on the pitch, I think it'll free up a lot of people. Morky is obviously better as a 10. He makes late runs into the box, which is so important. Goal scoring midfielders, and he's been the catalyst of most of those results coming, comebacks or, getting goals or penalties when he needs to. And Louis, I think, is just improving again. He's obviously playing as an 8 now, a bit higher. Scored his first goal last week, so he's going to be confident. So I think the best lineup would be those three: Juan, Louis, and Stefan Mork. Obviously rotating a bit, but Juan will bring stability to that midfield, which is what I think they're lacking mostly at the moment.
Very well said. Another player you played with and saw the very best of is Craig Goodwin. He's just come back, as we all know. You witnessed his magic firsthand back in the season 2018-19. Are you surprised to see him hit the ground running so emphatically as he has done 2 weeks into his comeback here at Adelaide United?
Nah, not really. I mean, he's a phenomenal player. He was unbelievable for a state year. Everything he touched turned to gold, and rightly got to move overseas. Hasn't really worked out the way he wanted, but he's a really good player. Adelaide boy, and really comfortable. In his home state, home city. So I thought it would take a little bit longer than a minute maybe for him to score his first goal, but there's no surprise that he's again the standout performer in the 2 games that he's been back. And I think that'll continue. So again, with Goody there, Juan in the middle, Tommy getting back fit, I think there's, it's a good squad. And, if he can keep playing the way he is, which I think he will, then, Adelaide's got a good chance.
We love to hear that. Let's discuss just quickly our diabolically bad record in Melbourne. Is it the one saving grace for the victory tonight, something they can fall back on perhaps given they're in this crisis? And I've got to ask you, having been inside the 4 walls at Adelaide United, does this ever get brought up to players? Does it weigh on their minds at all? Because it's a very bad record going all the way back since the beginning of the league, Vince.
No, it wasn't ever brought up, with my time under Marco Kurtz, and it was never brought up at all. I think we actually won there, with him. We won in Melbourne. I'm going to
ask you about that later. Yep.
Bad results. We lost, a semi-final there. So we've got some obviously bad results over the years, but it's never been brought up. It's not something that the players think about. They know Melbourne's a tough trip. Melbourne Victory is a tough game, regardless of where they sit on the table. So I think they'll be confident tonight going there, but knowing that it's going to be a tough night.
Do you think Victory will sort of be talking about the fact that we're usually pretty hopeless in Melbourne?
You know what? They might bring up whatever they can to get the players confident. Coaches use different tactics to convince players to believe in what they're, trying to get across. So I would probably, if I was a coach and I was in this position, I would bring it up. I would probably bring up the stats on points Adelaide's earned in Melbourne, and results and anything I could do to get my group confident, because at the moment they're not, and they've lost 6-0. So I think they would. They'd be silly probably if they didn't.
All very, very interesting to get the perspective of someone from the inside. Now, you did just mention that game we won back in 2017-18. Paul Izzo had an absolute blinder that day away to Melbourne Victory. So I want to touch on your memories as a whole from the original rivalry games that you've been a part of for both clubs over the years. You played in many of these affairs. Like I said, for me, nothing beats in the last 10 years that game that you were a part of in Melbourne. But I'd be remiss of me not to bring up round 2 of that same season, Vince, when, of course, you belted 2 stunners against Melbourne Victory at Adelaide Oval. Unfortunately, we didn't win that night, which was disappointing. But, yeah, an absolute spectacle that was back at Adelaide Oval in early or late 2017, I should say. You got plenty of memories, though, that go all the way right back to 2005. Talk to us from down the years. What sticks out most for you when you think about Victory versus Adelaide, a man that's played for both clubs?
Oh, there's many. There's many stories between those 2 clubs. I guess I'm pretty sure it was my Victory debut against Adelaide, and I think it was the game Louis Brain scored after 9 seconds. That it was you there and confident, and the whistle goes and you're 1-0 down. It's not great, but
that's still the record as well in the A-League for the fastest ever goal.
The record. So then the Muskie Cosmina clash obviously gets brought up all the time, which is quite enjoyable, and it adds to the spectacle of the game. There's the grand final win 6-0 for us at the time, and I don't think that record will ever be broken either. And then obviously the game, round 2, when I never scored 2 goals in a game ever. So to score it against Victory at Adelaide Oval against like a full house was pretty special. My first home game for Adelaide too. But yeah, it didn't end the way we wanted. I ended up getting injured that day, and we ended up drawing the game as well. So then there's the final that I feel like we played well. Borussia scored an overhead kick in the last minute to knock us out. So there's a lot of drama over the years, these 2 teams, and tonight's going to be another one, I think.
Just on that game where you scored that fantastic brace, it's worth noting you didn't enjoy a simple goal for Adelaide. The other goal you scored against the Wanderers, an absolute blinder as well that everyone would have seen watching this right now. So some great memories, as you say, on the whole there. Now you did say, Vince, that you did give a prediction earlier on. So I just want to go back to that. How do you see this one going tonight? Who gets on the scorer's sheet? What's going to unfold at Marvel Stadium?
Yeah, hard to pick what's going to unfold. Almost, not almost certain, but a good chance of maybe a red card. That would be nice for people to watch. Not a nasty tackle, but some drama. I think there'll be goals for sure. Probably Goodwin will score another one. Look, I think if Victory can be solid at the back, Adelaide can be solid at the back, I think they've got the players to go on and win the game. But I think there'll be goals in it.
Beautiful stuff. That concludes our preview. We're going to get into finding a bit more about the man behind the player, that is Vince Lear, obviously a staunch A-League personality since season 1. You haven't missed a minute, really, Vince, and here you are still playing in the NPL Victoria with Altona Magic. So, as I mentioned at the top, 238 matches across your career. It's a fantastic achievement. Still going, as I said, you're a Shepparton boy. You started your career playing at what is known as historically Victoria's biggest club, South Melbourne. 4 big years there, 51 games. Must have been a real buzz for you to kickstart your career as a footballer.
Yeah, it was, man. South Melbourne, it's a huge club, huge history. You just walk around the facilities, the changing rooms and the ground, and, all the pictures were there when Ange Postecoglou won the double back-to-back championship, and, they were in the World Club Championships a few years before I got there. And we had some big names. Paul Chimboli was there, Steve Panopoulos, David Clarkson, Mehmet Durakovic, Pakis Norbo. Had a really, really good team. And I was a 16-year-old kid making my debut. So it was, for me, it was an enjoyable time. The NSL, a lot of people talk about it, how it was dying and it was dead. But as a 16-year-old kid, it was good for me to play against men, good players, ex-Socceroos. So I benefited. Obviously, played 51 games for them as a teenager. So I have really fond memories of my time at South Melbourne.
Is there any one standout memory? I mean, South Melbourne, the subject of so many huge moments in the NSL. Obviously, the rivalry with Melbourne Knights, the rivalry with going back probably before your time, the Adelaide Greek club, West Adelaide, and Adelaide City. And there's been some huge rivalries, but still in that sort of early noughties period, you would have seen some very spicy affairs, dare I say. Does anything stick out in particular from your time at South?
Not really. I guess just personal milestones. My debut, my first start was away to Perth at fullback, left back, I think, and against a Perth Glory team that was, chock full of talent. Yeah, really, really good players, strong men, winners, and we drew 0-0. So that sticks out as a memory. There's the derbies, the Melbourne Knights, South Melbourne games were always big affairs, and there was one game we played at Knight Stadium, and Madoka scored the winner with 10 or 15 minutes to go, and we went to the crowd and gave them the bird.
Oh wow!
And we're all thinking at the time, "What are you doing? We're not gonna get out of this one alive." And ended up after the game in the change room, police came in and just said, "Look, you're gonna have to wait in here. The fans are surrounding your bus."
Oh wow!
So we waited about an hour for the police to kind of get the crowd under control before we got escorted onto our team bus. So, I was like, must never scores any goals either. So for him to do that and then, make us wait an hour in the change room is something that we don't let him forget too quickly. So that one, obviously sticks in the memory. There was a game against Sydney Olympic, Greek derby at home. We were 4-0 up after 20 minutes and ended up winning the game 6-4. I think Milicic was playing that day. Andrew Durante was on in the squad that day. So we talk about that quite often with Jura. So there's games like that stick out. But just my time as a whole, being around the club and around the players as a kid that age was just something so valuable.
You did mention how much it benefited you playing against those kinds of personalities, big-time players from the 90s, obviously Paul Trimboli, Mehmet Jurakovic, Patrick Isnorbo. As a 16-year-old Vince Leah, do you think that sort of really fast-tracked you to be ready to play in the thick of it? Because obviously, it's very different with how things are now with pathways for young players. It's rare that they're sort of thrown straight into the thick of it, although we're seeing that more now in the A-League. But generally, up to now, it's been very rare that 16-year-olds kind of get that kind of baptism of fire. Do you think it really, fast-tracked you in your development?
I think it did, yeah. I think the quicker you can get exposed to that kind of football, the better you're going to be. Obviously, there's clubs, they want to win. They want to win games. They want to win championships. So they're a bit wary of throwing too many youngsters in if they're not ready, or because it's ultimately a results-based industry. So you need to make sure that you're winning. But for me to play at that age, in that league against men and good players, I think you have to grow up real quick, and back then it wasn't, I'm not going to say easy, but it wasn't as easy as it is now. Young kids, they're a bit more delicate. You have to be careful in the way you approach them, treat them, get your message across. It wasn't like that back then. You either made it or you didn't. And
of course,
there was no, coaches just were pretty blunt. I was lucky. I had Eddie Krinčević was quite nice, and he wasn't the kind of coach that would yell and scream. Stewie Munro really didn't either. So I wasn't in an environment really where it was horrible, but you have to grow up because you got, like I said, the players that I played with, they don't accept substandard kind of performances or training sessions or attitudes, which, helps you grow up. And I think it's kind of molded the player that I turned out to be.
No doubt about it. We'll move on, Vince, to you joining Fawkner Blues for a brief period before then signing on as a foundation player at Melbourne Victory. in the A-League at the start of the A-League. Obviously, a very eventful 2 years you had there. Firstly, as a club failing, it's got to be said, to take the league by storm, but then bouncing back devastatingly the following season to win the A-League, as we know, in what was such dominant fashion. I take it playing at the Victory holds some special and significant memories for you.
Yeah, it does. Again, I was still quite young. I was 19, 20 years old when the A-League started. So there was a group of us, me, Adrian Leia, Christian Sarkis, that signed on as, at the time, you had 3 under-21 players. We were part of the Young Socceroos setup, so Melbourne Victorian boys. So, Ernie Merrick was the coach, and he'd worked with the VIS. So he obviously knows Adrian and Christian well. So the 3 of us signed on, and it was, it was different, very professional. The A-League was a step up, and that's the whole reason that the NSL kind of folded and the A-League began. We were full-time pros now, and we put together a pretty decent team. Kevin Muscat came back and was our captain, who was a real leader on the pitch, off the pitch, but struggled for results. We actually started the season quite well and beat Sydney 5-0 at Olympic Park. I think we might have been on top of the league at that point, and went 1 win from the last 9 games and finished down the bottom. So, everyone was calling for Ernie Merrick's head, and I guess we waited to see the next season. If we started poorly, he would have been on the chopping block, and we went 7 wins from the first 7 games, and we're 21 points. And I struggled to get into that team because if you're on the bench in the first round and your team wins 7 in a row, they don't really change the squad too much. So we had a midfield with Fred and Grant Brebner, and Muskie was in there, so it was pretty hard to break into that team. So I only played 7 games that championship season, which it's obviously disappointing looking back, and I wasn't in the squad grand final day. And as a footballer, to be honest, if you're not involved on the day, you don't really feel a part of it. So yeah, I did win a championship, but I don't feel like I contributed as much as I liked. But I still, great memories, just being around the club that big and watching it grow from the first season to the second season. We moved to Etihad Stadium. We had a league game against Sydney that had 50,000 people. To see Australian football grow from the NSL days to the start of the A-League to having 50,000 at your home game was pretty impressive to see.
Well, everyone, I'm sure, is very appreciative of you opening up and telling us how you really felt about that. I'm sure most footballers will agree with you that, if they're not selected on the day, it sort of takes away from some of the celebrations post-game, I'm sure. But nevertheless, perspective is important. Vince, you were still quite young, as you say, in a team full of veterans and overseas players as well. Obviously, Melbourne Victory, the launch pad, though, for what was to come next. A very, very special chapter for you. I can say, I'm sure, quite comfortably the most decorated chapter in your career. The big move across the ditch. Now, before we talk about Phoenix and the time you had there, in 2007, if someone was to tell you you'd be spending a decade in New Zealand, you would have said what to them?
Yeah, I would have said, you're dreaming. I'll be there for a year and I'll come back, which is what I thought. I guess as a young kid, you think, or you hope that the next move is overseas. You want to play your trade in Europe or somewhere at a higher level. So I initially signed a 1-year contract. I wanted to get game time. I wasn't playing at Melbourne. So it was better for me to leave and try and get some game time, which is exactly what I got over there. And 10 years later, yeah, almost 200 games for the club. It was a good time, really good time.
So obviously you moved over when they had just been founded as a club. New Zealand Knights obviously folded. Wellington took their place. No one really knew what to come. We know Ross Aloisi had signed early on, and there were a few Brazilians signing on too, but no one knew what was going to come with Wellington Phoenix, what they were going to look like or anything like that. Now, you started with an absolute bang. You scored your first A-League goal against Melbourne Victory, which I'm sure was a very special feeling for you. But along the way, you made the finals with the club in 2009-10, 2010-11, 11-12, and 2014-15, and some real personal highlights along the journey as well. So really, I'm just going to throw it to you. A special 10 years. You take us right back to the beginning and how special it all was for you over there in New Zealand.
Yeah, well, looking back, it was, it was an incredible time. I'll always be a Phoenix fan. I'll always follow them and will want them to do well. Yeah, you mentioned I was a foundation player. It was, again, going to a new club, and nothing was set up really. It was like, when I got there, it was me, Michael Ferranti, and Ross Aloisi were there, and then Daniel Cortez turned up, and he didn't speak English, and the coach and the all white boys were away. They had a game against Wales, so they weren't even in the city. So we were kind of there for 2 weeks without any training. We were kind of just looking around going, what are we doing here? Where is everyone? But, it turned out to be, that year was pretty tough. We didn't put together the best squad, but I guess trying to put together a team in New Zealand after what happened with the Knights was tough to attract good, solid players was hard. But we used that year as kind of a stepping stone. The following season, we brought in some reinforcements. Jura came across, who ended up being there 11 years, captained the club for 250 odd games. So then he brought stability. We started to sign better players, overseas players. Paul Eiffel came, Chris Greenacre, Leo Bertos came back. We had started to put together a really strong group of Kiwi boys and Aussie boys that were there, for the right reasons. We wanted to succeed at the club, and I think the most special thing about the time there was we were all there as young men, mid-20s, early 20s, without families. We'd all moved across from Australia, not all of us, but everyone from Australia had moved across without our family. No one really had kids at the time. So we were a really close group. We all lived around each other. Wellington's a pretty small place, so we lived within 5 or 10 minutes from each other. So we were always together, lunch, dinner, obviously training, coffees. We had 10 or 15 players that were together. So we were really, really close friends. We were like brothers. So I think that's pretty much the catalyst of why we had success those 3 or 4 years in a row. We made the finals. We were 1 game away from a grand final when we lost to Sydney 4-2. So there was always reasons why I hung around. There was kind of that aspect to it where we were so close. And then you see, these kind of guys re-signing. You want to be a part of it. You want to hang around because you're comfortable. Your friends are there. You feel like, we're on the right track. It started to get a bit stale under Ricky Herbert after, the World Cup, 5 or 6 years we were there. We were kind of just stagnating a little bit. So the right move for him to move on, and then Ernie Merrick came, which at the time, I actually remember calling my mate and saying, "You need to come and help me pack my bags. So Ernie Merrick's coming," and obviously released me from Melbourne Victory, and I was like, "This is not going to end well, man." But he was so good. He was completely different as a person, as a coach. He'd learned a lot. I'd matured a lot, and he was really good. I was one of the senior guys there and leaders of the team. So he was really good with me, Jura, Ben Sigmund, who asked our opinions, our thoughts. He always, would have a chat. So I had a good relationship with Ernie. And then you kind of re-sign because you feel like the club's moving forward. Ernie's going to take us to another dimension. And we started playing some more attractive football. We had a bit of success there too. We, were on top of the league for a period there, and ended up crashing out of the finals with him. But we had put together a good team. And then, I was there. By that time, 8 years I was there. And then you kind of looking towards the 10-year mark. It's a milestone. I had a testimonial, so it was then a reason why I wanted to hang around. Again, another kind of chapter in the club's history would have, new coach come in again. So there's always different reasons why I stayed. So on the whole, it was a really enjoyable 10 years. And I've got friends for life now from that time.
Special memories, no question about it. Obviously, it all came to an end, though, 10 years after you first moved to Wellington. So I'm sure everyone watching in particularly is interested in why Adelaide, because the season you came here, things were not great. We'd had a very poor championship defence, a lot of players moving on, a new manager coming in that no one knew anything about, and we really struggled to sign players in that initial period. I think Ersan Gulam had signed, and no one followed for a long time, and no one really knew what was going on. But then suddenly we've got a fierce German here in charge, and a whole new list of players. How did the Adelaide move come about?
Yeah, so look, I left Wellington. I came back to Melbourne, and there was a few months there where I had nothing. I was, I think it was pretty publicised at the time that I didn't have an agent. I was doing my own kind of. I just felt like the football ops managers and the people involved in clubs I know personally. I've either played with them or against them. By this point, I was 32, so I emailed Ante Kovacevic. I'd obviously seen in the media that Adelaide had lost a lot of players. Eugene had left, Karuska had left. Syria had left. All the experienced guys had gone, and I just really felt like I could add to the group, so I felt like that's what I could bring, is what Adelaide was missing at the time. Had good young kids, but they didn't have anyone there, any older guys there. Taylor Regan was there, and Issa. That was really, and Mickey Moroney, but that was the only three guys really there with any experience. So I emailed him and just said, look, I'm obviously free, I'm available, I've got no club. I waited until I'd heard rumours that the coach was signed, because I know I've had messages from clubs before saying, "Oh, we're not sure, we haven't signed a coach yet." So I always waited until they'd signed a coach, and I said, "Ask him if he needs, an experienced midfielder. I feel like I can bring a lot to your team." And he actually wrote back and said, "I'm on the plane now with Marco coming back from Germany. He wants to see you though. Will you come to Adelaide for a trial?" And I was like, "Oh, look, I don't really want to come for a trial. Shouldn't really have to."
No.
But I understand that he wants to see me, because he doesn't know me from about, he doesn't know me at all. He hasn't seen the A-League. He's got no idea what kind of player I am. So I said, if he's really, really interested in signing me, if he needs a midfielder, I'll come. But if it's just like to get me across, and then in the end he doesn't really need, a midfielder, then I'm not wasting my time. And he said, look, he needs midfielders, he needs experience, he just wants to see how you are, if you're fit, what kind of person you are. So I went for 10 days, trained for a week, and played a friendly, and on the back of the friendly he said, "Yeah, Marco likes you, he wants to sign you." So that was it. I was like, yeah, look, keen. Obviously Marco was pretty tough, but he was a good guy off the field, and you could chat to him. He was on the field, he was a winner, and he was really, really, really tough. But that's German football for you, European football. So I signed for a year, and I loved my time in Adelaide.
So that's pretty fascinating. Before we get into the time you spend here, if you're being told that you need to trial to earn a contract at 32, you've just been at an A-League club for 10 years. Does that make you second guess yourself in any way, or were you completely sure of yourself in that trial? Because, obviously you're experienced, that everyone knows what a trial is, but, to suddenly think, oh, I've come here on my own accord and I really need to get this contract now. Does that make you play in a certain different way, or you just did what you know and the rest will take care of itself?
Yeah, pretty much just did what I know. I had the mindset of knowing what Adelaide needed, and I said to my fiance at the time, look, if I go there and I could not play well, I could not train well, but what I am going to do is I'm going to be loud, I'm going to be a leader, I'm going to talk, I'm going to organise, and I'm going to show the coach what I can bring, because performances can be up and down, but you can always kind of lead, you can always be a pro, you can always talk. So I made sure that I kind of brought to the club, or to my trial, what the club was missing, and I guess that worked. So
beautiful. The rest is history. So moving into your time here, you spent the best part of 3 seasons here, 3 FFA Cup finals, won 2 of them. What are your best memories from playing in Adelaide?
Yeah, obviously the goals against Victory will stand out forever. The home debut on Adelaide Oval, the cup final win against Sydney, the first one when Goody scored those 2 goals, and you play football for those moments. You play football for trophies and finals, and so those 2 memories will stick out always. Obviously, the next year's final, I was on the bench and didn't come on, but that was another night to remember. 4-0, and absolutely. And we played City a week before and lost. Then to turn up on cup final night and do that was pretty special. So again, I think football for me, I'll take away the memories. Not so much game day memories on the field. There's the stuff off the field, the people you meet, the training ground stuff, and the banter that you have with the boys is what people miss, and it's what you remember mostly. As good as the football is, the game day atmosphere and vibes are, the stuff you miss and the stuff you cherish the most are the relationships with the group.
Yeah, no question about it. Did you enjoy the city? Would you come back here after, it's a little bit more safe to do so and everyone can travel around again? Did Adelaide leave a kind mark on you?
Yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it. When we were there at the time, we were actually thinking of hanging around. I said at the time, if I finish my career in Adelaide, there's a chance that I'll stay, because obviously coming from Wellington was quite small. Adelaide was a step up. It's bigger than Wellington. More things to do. The wineries there were amazing. The city's got a vibrant atmosphere. Smaller than Melbourne, so I don't know whether if I came directly from Melbourne, I would have the same view. Yeah. But I was away for so long that I was used to that kind of smaller city vibe. And at 32, I wasn't going out all the time. I was more had a dog. I was walking the dog and going to wineries and going to the beach. So Adelaide had everything that I needed. And it was just so convenient. It's easy to get around. We lived in Norwood the first year, which was 30 minutes from Adelaide Hills. So it was pretty nice. And yeah, we've got friends there again for life. My fiance worked, so she's got friends from work that we'll be friends for life. So we'll be back and forth to Adelaide forever, I think, come for weekends away. And it's only a 50-minute flight from Melbourne. So
it's fantastic stuff, Vince. So unfortunately, you did move on early 2022 Perth Glory. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume it's because you weren't really in GERTJAN's plans, albeit his plans did not last too much longer after you left. Was that the reason sort of behind leaving?
Yeah, definitely. In hindsight, I probably should have stayed. He ended up leaving. I think COVID ended up being the best thing that happened to the club at the time, because he didn't come back. To be honest, yeah, it was not an enjoyable year. Right from the beginning, I could tell that the atmosphere wasn't going to be good. He came in and he just created an atmosphere there he was dividing the playing group with players playing and players not playing. We were training at different times, and sometimes I didn't see the first 11 boys until the Friday. So it was a bad culture that was getting created at the club, and he kind of, by that point, we had a chat, and he just said, "Look, I'm not going to play much." He said, "Look, you've been really professional and you do everything right, but Louis playing, he's playing well, and if we're honest, next season we're not going to offer you anything. So if you want to find something, I understand, and I'll let you go." So then I was like, okay, then for me, I wanted to keep playing beyond that season. So I felt like if I left and got some game time, then I've got a better chance of getting another contract somewhere, rather than sitting and rotting, in Adelaide under a coach that I didn't like and an atmosphere that was pretty horrible. So I emailed Jacob Burns, and they were about to embark on the Champions League campaign, and they needed to strengthen their squad. So I felt like this could be a good move for me. Go there, we'll have a really busy schedule, and I'll get some minutes. I'll definitely get more minutes than I got in Adelaide. But went there and went to Japan. One game into the Champions League, it got postponed, and then the A-League got shut down. So we didn't have the heavy schedule that I was anticipating. So obviously one day was playing Kilkenny, Brimmer. So without the busy schedule, there wasn't really room for me there, and ended up coming back to Melbourne and back to Sydney for the hub. But again, it didn't work out as I thought. And then, GERTJAN ended up leaving, so probably should have stayed where I was.
Oh, look, you can never regret how things go. Football is just a funny game, and you ended up still having an A-League career that many people will be jealous of. There's no question about it. You do now find yourself playing for NPL Victoria club Altona Magic. So let's talk about that. Sitting mid-table at the moment. You've got a game tonight. So unfortunately, you'll miss seeing the Adelaide Melbourne game. How's it all going at Altona? Obviously, 2 games into a season that everyone in Melbourne's been craving after the disaster of last year, having the league shut down permanently with coronavirus outbreaks. Obviously, everyone's the appetite's there now for the game to be back in full swing, and I dare say you're enjoying your time at Altona.
Yeah, I am. It's obviously a level down, it's a step down, but there's some talented players floating around in the NPL. It's just the small details at training and the little things that you do at A-League level, or you have to do, where you get found out, aren't really being done. So that's where the jump kind of comes. People find it as a shock when you jump from NPL to A-League, that there's all these little details that haven't been taught or haven't been, coached at NPL level. But for me, at my age, it's, it's good. It's enjoyable. It's still quite a commitment. It's 3 nights a week training with a game on the weekend. So I'm very rarely at home now. But it's good. It's enough for me to get my football fix. I haven't missed, if I'm honest, I haven't missed playing in the A-League. I still watch the games and I'm enjoying watching it. But I'm enjoying being home and not traveling on the weekends and having the pressure. And I wasn't enjoying, to be honest, I didn't enjoy my last year of football. So this has been nice. It's, it's still quite a tough league. It's pretty physical. There's a lot of players out there, obviously with a point to prove. Some want to play professionally, some are ex-professionals who have dropped down, and but I've found that the pressure and the tackles are a lot stronger, and you get a lot of people getting more stuck in than A-League level. Pretty fiery game we had last week, but we've got a big one tonight against Heidelberg. So we're at home again. Pretty passionate group of fans we have as well. So yeah, it's different, but it's enjoyable. I'm enjoying my time.
And just talk to us about what the future might hold for you, Vince. Obviously now you've got a birthday coming up, I think in a week's time or so, I saw. So you're getting on a bit. Are you thinking about potentially heading into the coaching ranks at all? How long might you continue playing at Altona? Obviously, still very much at an age where you could play into your 40s if you wanted to. But, a lot of players now wanting to start thinking about coaching earlier on in their careers to get a bit of a head start. Is that bubbling away there at all? Or what might we be seeing of Vince Leah in the next handful of years?
Look, to be honest, coaching as a career is not something that I want to pursue. I just feel like as a player, I've always kind of moved around or not been settled in where I was. I was never sure if I was staying in Wellington, leaving every year. It was contract year and you can't plan anything. And, it's pretty volatile. As a coach, it's even worse. You could get sacked 6 games into your contract. So I don't really want that instability anymore. I'm enjoying being home and knowing that I'm going to be home. But I do like the coaching side of the game. So I think I will coach at some point, at some level. Could be NPL level, could be younger. I think I would get a little bit more out of probably coaching younger kids and seeing the improvement that I can bring to them, given my wisdom and knowledge that I've learned over the years. I still have to do my badges. I've kind of started the C license in Perth and it all got postponed for COVID. So I'm waiting for the next one in Melbourne, which I think's in the off season. So I'll jump on that, and then I'll probably pretty quickly try and do my B, and then that'll probably be me for the foreseeable future. I think I'll coach at some point, at some level, but I don't know when and where. I feel like I can still play. As long as my body feels good, I'll play as long as I can, whether that's NPL level MPL2. It could be, there's obviously a team in Shepparton, the GV Suns, that play the MPL2, which would be nice to kind of get back there. But again, a big commitment with the travel back and every weekend. So we'll just see where things go, how my body feels, and if I'm enjoying it mainly. If I'm not enjoying training, I'm about to have a baby in June as well, my first. So whether I want to commit to another year of football and not being home, that I'll have to wait and see.
Well, a big congratulations on being about to become a dad there. Whatever it is you do, Vince, we wish you the very best. It's been a fascinating chat, a genuine servant of the A-League. Some fascinating stories, Vince. Really enjoyed it. All the very best to you and Altona for the remainder of the 2021 season. You've got a big game tonight against Heidelberg. Wish you all the best in getting the chocolates there and everything else you're doing in the foreseeable future, Vince. It's been great chatting with you, and we'll look forward to seeing you come up again in some headlines.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it. I appreciate having me on, and hopefully the Reds can get a win tonight.
Beautiful stuff. Thank you, Vince, and thanks for watching, guys.